Hey guys, how's it going? Um, this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. I mean, for years actually, a couple years. I don't know what's taken me so long. Um, a little fun fact about me, for those who don't know. When I was about 15 years old, I'm 29 now. I was diagnosed with high functioning autism. Probably can't notice now because I'm a talkative girl. I don't shut up. I'm loud. Go ask my friends; they'll tell you how crazy I am. But it wasn't always this easy for me to be social. When I was a kid, I was quiet, as quiet as you can imagine. I didn't talk much. I often, when I went out into public, was often hiding behind my mother's leg. Didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't make eye contact. Like, looking people straight in the eye was a chore. Like, I hated doing it. But I'll start from the beginning. Okay. Um, like the very beginning, may as well be official. I was born on the 25th of December, 1989. Yes, Christmas baby here. Um, and from what my mum has told me, all through my baby toddler years, she wasn't sure of the diagnosis at the time, but there were signs. Um, I don't know if this is an autistic trait, but she said my hand-eye coordination level was high even back then. She said I'd be in the bathtub um and I'd have a ball and I would just be like I was just knew where it was and I was being very quick. And she is probably just a coordinated. I have no idea. And the older I got, right from a very young age, 3 or 4 years old, I've always loved drawing. It's a genetic thing. Almost everybody in my family has some form of art that they're good at. Sketching in particular is my thing. I still do it. Every once in a while, it's just a side hobby that I like. Um, and she said that when I was doing a sketch or a certain task, I'd get so absorbed in what I was doing, all my other senses just got cut off. Like, I'd lose myself so much. I don't hear anything. So for a little bit there, she thought I was deaf. But that is actually an autistic trait. Is we have this thing where we just want to escape reality. We want to lose ourselves in whatever we're doing because real life is too loud for us. It feels like we don't really have much of a sound filter when we're in a noisy place. All the sounds that we hear hit us at once, and it just becomes this scratchy, static noise in our head. And that's why you see a lot of autistic kids banging or rocking like this, because they're trying desperately to get that noise out. I don't know what my solution was. I don't know if I rocked or I often if I can't find noises, if I find noises too unbearable these days, I kind of rub my temple because it does sometimes give me a headache. But I can deal with it a lot better now because I like to be around my friends. We are known as strong introverts, but I'll get into that later. But certain events in my life carried on as I grew up that brought me out of my shell. Because one thing I couldn't do, as I mentioned before, was look people in the eyes. Because that was the scariest thing in the world. It is commonly known as a social disability. I don't know if that's correct in any sense. But I spent a lot of my time when I was talking to the people staring at the ground. Because if I tried to so much look them in the eye, it was like looking at the sun. it hurt, and I just wanted to pull away and look at something else that was less scary. Um, I'm fine now. I say to Mum, I do this. I look people straight in the eye. I'm like, hey, guess what? I'm autistic. Like I can freak people out doing that. Now when I was about 9 years old, for the first time, my family packed up and we went to Europe for 2 years. For the first 9 months, we went to Germany, and I spent my first white Christmas there. And that was probably one of the first stages of bringing me out, because I had to go to school there, and not many kids my age at the time could speak English. I had to go there and I had to learn their language so I could communicate with everybody. And according to my parents and other people that were older at the time, I was fluent within months, or a few months, I don't know. I do remember the first school I did go to wasn't very successful. It was a little bit harder, so I went to a different one later, and I settled in a lot better there. I made better friends, and I learnt the language a lot quicker. I picked it up. Don't ask me to speak German to you now. I'm actually in the middle of recapping it. So yeah, that was fun. I saw my first snow there. It was like 2 a.m. So yeah, great snow, whoop-de-doo, but it was cold and it was late at night, and all I cared about was sleep. But the next morning, we spent a lot of good time frolicking about and having snowball fights and yay, all that kind of stuff. So it was, so 9 months there. And then the remainder of the 2 years, we spent in Scotland, in this town called Inverness. Don't know if any of you have heard of it. And I had almost as hard time understanding them as I did the Germans. Their accent, I'd never heard a Scottish person before. At that age, I was 10 years old. So when I went to school and these kids started talking to me in these thick Scottish accents, I had no clue what they were saying. But of course, the longer time I spent there, the more used to it I got, the more coherent they became to me. I made friends. I made a specific family. I made good friends with them. The Williams. I'm going to be posting this on Facebook, so if you guys catch this video, I'm going to be mentioning you. I'll even tag you so you watch this. It has been 18 years since I've seen these people. It's been a long time. I dream of the day I can go back and see them one day. And one specific friend I want to give a shout out to that I haven't seen since then is my friend Zoe. We were good mates back then. She came over a lot. She came to my 11th birthday party. I don't know if you remember, I was dressed up as a cat. You were dressed up as some Chinese girl, I think. So that you were in blue. The only reason I know is because I've got photos somewhere. I looked at them a lot over the years. And there's a few other girls. There was one dressed up as a cowgirl, another girl dressed up as a cat. It's very sketchy memories for me. And it was in that huge house that we were renting in the country. It was like a big double-story one. And we had paddocks of cows for neighbours. And my boarding school I went to was just down the road. Of course, we had a really long driveway. It was 300 meters long. Was it that long? Can't remember. It was long for me. I was 10 and I had to walk down it every day to get to school and then up the street. And sometimes I had to, you know what? I'm calling BS on the snow days I've apparently seen movies, because I remember walking to school in snow sometimes. Unless it was a really, really bad blizzard where people got snowed in, unless that happened, you still go to school. Okay? Just because there's a little bit of snow on the ground, no, doesn't mean you get cut off from your education. The only side trips we took, there was one time we drove down to England, because they're connected, the whole of Britain. It was a 12-hour drive, give or take, to London. My sister Kate, she was about 21 at the time, 20, 21. She got married in the London Temple. I nearly said Salt Lake. And I was 11, so I was just not quite old enough to go into. I couldn't even go into baptisms. I wasn't old enough, let alone see a wedding ceiling. But well, it was fine. I remember getting motion sickness. I'm losing track of what I'm talking about. Just blurting out. Look, this whole traveling thing, going to Germany, going to school, and also the climate change with the snow, and going to houses one after the other, and meeting different people, finding different kinds of friends. And of course, you had the whole people going, "Where are you from?" And people thought I was either, I don't know, some people thought I was American. Do I sound American to you guys? And all of this was a big stepping stone to bring myself out a bit more as a person. I was becoming less and less shy as I met more people, a little bit more out there. I wasn't quite as antisocial as I was as a little kid. One thing I've never had any problem with was making friends. As even though I was shy with strangers or adults or whatever, if I always had my own little tight-knit group of friends, and I got along with them fine. They saw sides of me that no one else saw. In fact, even today, sorry mum and dad, but there are sides of me that my close friends see, that Amanda has seen, that Alex has seen, that Ethan has seen, because he's with me every day, that you guys don't ever see. There's a whole new side of me that you don't know about. But I will talk about that later. Anyway, 2 years abroad in Europe, I started to actually forget what Perth looked like. It was becoming a distant memory. But then I remember one day I walked up to my mum and I was like, "When are we going to go home? I miss Australia." And she's like, "Oh, we're actually going home in a couple of weeks." And I was like, "So what?" It was like so out of the blue. So yeah, well, turns out my dad had a potential growing business over there, but it kind of collapsed. And we were, as far as I know, we were dangerously broke, and we couldn't afford to stay over there anymore. So thankfully, I don't remember specifically how. I don't know if it was a green card or it was just a generous donation. I'm not sure. But my auntie Steph Rogarski, we're in the same ward at the moment. She helped us come home to Australia. If you don't know where in Australia I'm from, I'm in Perth, and if you still don't know where that is, if you know where Sydney is, with Melbourne and all that, which is on the eastern coast, I'm on the other side of Australia, on the western coast. And I've had so many people saying, "Oh, I didn't know anybody lived there." Are you kidding me? There's like over 2 million people living here. It's crazy. We are a thriving society. So anyway, yes. Already, by the time I got back from Europe, I was already a very outgoing person. I was already more open, and I was still awkward with some things. Like, one thing I always hated was confrontations. It just makes my stomach churn, especially if it's nothing good. When I came back, I went to school. I went back to primary school. Como Primary School. I was there until I graduated and I went to high school. It's just a couple of years. And we lived in that suburb in Como. And that whole area, Manning, Como, the people that live in Perth know what area I'm talking about. That's my home. I grew up there. That was where my childhood was. I just feel like every time I drive there or drive through there, I feel a little homesick. And don't get me wrong, I love Mandurah. I do. It's great down here. It's just not the same. I don't doubt that at some point I'll be wanting to move back there eventually. This home is where the heart is. I just it's just a matter of talking about it with Ethan, compromising, I guess. Now one of the hardest challenges of my life was high school. It was not like primary school was fine. I had cool teachers, had friends. Didn't get picked on in primary school. It was fine. I was actually one of the best runners, you know. Primary school was great, but high school was different. I don't know what it is with the boys, but you'd think that I had a large group of friends. There was like 8 or 9 of us, but we were still the victims of bullying. And I admit I was a little bit more sensitive back then. I actually mostly got name calling and picking on, and me being only 13 to 14 at the time, I was still awkward and introverty, and my feelings were hurt pretty easily, and that didn't make it easy. But if I was the person I am now, back then, I wouldn't have put up with it. I would have just told them to screw off, whatever. I've mentally, and I'm stronger in here now, I don't put up with crap from anybody. Anyway, I'm coming to the end of the duration time of my video, so I'm gonna just stop here, and there'll be a part 2 of my journey with autism.